Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The officers, non-commissioned officers, and troopers of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment would like to welcome you to today's ceremony. They also extend a warm welcome to our families and distinguished guests, Major General Martin, Mrs. Martin, Command Sergeant Major Travers, and Mrs. Travers, and other distinguished guests. We would also like to welcome all the former Black Horse troopers and their family members to today's ceremony. During today's ceremony, Colonel John L. Ward, the 65th Colonel of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, will relinquish command to Colonel Kevin L. Jacobi. Lieutenant Colonel Snyder will relinquish command of 1st Squadron to Lieutenant Colonel Wilcox. Lieutenant Colonel Bramlett will relinquish command of the 2nd Squadron to Lieutenant Colonel Celeen. Lieutenant Colonel McFarland will relinquish command of the Regimental Support Squadron to Lieutenant Colonel Stevens. And Command Sergeant Major Shine will relinquish responsibility of the Regimental Support Squadron to Command Sergeant Major Reynolds. Armies throughout the world have conducted ceremonies to commemorate victory over an enemy, to honor heroes, or to pay homage to fallen comrades. Ceremonies add color and pageantry to military life. In the United States, the foundation of our present ceremonies was laid by the Continental Army. Today's ceremony is a reflection of procedures practiced since the dawn of our nation. The ceremony that you are about to see includes a presentation of honors, inspection of troops, honor to the nation, and the changing of command. The reviewing officer for today's ceremony is Major General Theodore D. Martin, Commanding General for the National Training Center in Fort Irwin. The commander of troops for today's ceremony is Major Rufus H. Shoemate, Executive Officer, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. On behalf of the troopers and families of the regiment, red roses in full bloom are being presented to Mrs. Heather Ward and Allie Ward, Mrs. Jennifer Ligren Snyder, Mrs. Amy Esterline, Mrs. Jen McFarland and Aaron McFarland, and Mrs. Renita Shine, symbolizing the love and care that they have shown the troopers and families of the regiment that have blossomed over time. On behalf of the troopers and families of the regiment, yellow rosebuds are being presented to Mrs. Kathy Jacobi, Mrs. Anya Wilcox, Mrs. Melissa Celeen, Mrs. Faith Stevens, and Mrs. Lisa Reynolds, symbolizing the open hand of welcome and friendship that will blossom over time. At this time, Allie Ward and Aaron McFarland, representing the departing children of the regiment, will present carrots to the horse detachment in appreciation for our horses playing a part in all we do, past and present. In true cavalry fashion, commands for today's ceremony will be directed by bugle call. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the field as the adjutant directs the bugler to begin the ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of honors. General Martin has deferred the honors to the soldiers from the National Training Center currently deployed in support of counterterrorism and counterinsurgency operations. Please be seated. At this time, the command is preparing to troop the line. The inspection of troops by commanding general and the incoming and outgoing regimental commanders is a custom that dates back to the era of Alexander the Great. It provides the commander the opportunity to see his soldiers and assess their fitness for combat. The 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment has a long, proud history of excellence that spans over a century and includes military campaigns from the Philippines to the current global war on terrorism. The regimental motto, Allons, is French for "Let's go." The regiment has been on the go since its activation as a 4th Squadron at Fort Myer, Virginia in 1901. In December of that year, the regiment was deployed to the Philippines for 2 years. From 1905 to 1911, the regiment was involved in a series of missions, including a deployment to Cuba, and later participated in disarming aggressors in Trinidad and Ludlow, Colorado. In March of 1916, the 11th Cavalry joined General John J. Pershing in a putative expedition into Mexico to capture the Mexican bandit Pancho Villa and neutralize his rebel army. On 9 July 1919, the 11th Cavalry moved to its new post, the Presidio of Monterey, California. Here the regiment received its nickname Black Horse from the local citizens because of the distinctive black horses the men used in training. June of 1944 saw the newly redesignated 11th Cavalry Group move to Camp Gordon, Georgia, to begin training for overseas deployment, entering France on 23 November 1944. From 1957 to 1964, the regiment served in southern Germany to patrol the German-Czechoslovakia border. In March 1966, was ordered to deploy to Vietnam. The Black Horse arrived to the Republic of Vietnam on 7 September 1966. While in Vietnam, the regiment received its own distinctive patch, won 14 battle streamers, and 3 of its troopers received the Medal of Honor. On 1 May 1970, the 11th ACR spearheaded a joint incursion into the area of Cambodia. In May of 1972, the regiment was headquartered in Fulda, Germany, with squadrons in Bad Hersfeld and Bad Kissingen. For 20 years, the regiment patrolled the east-west German border and was known as the Guardians of Frontiers of Freedom. When Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, the regiment deployed an aviation task force to support U.S. Kurdish relief efforts in Turkey and northern Iraq. The rest of the regiment deployed to Kuwait to secure the country as it struggled to rebuild from war. The Black Horse Regiment was inactivated in 15 March 1994 and was then reactivated in October here at Fort Irwin. Over the next decade, the Black Horse served as the Army's premier opposing force, setting the standard for training the world's greatest army. In June of 2004, the regiment deployed the 58th Combat Engineers, Red Devils, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, attached to 2nd Brigade, 10th Mountain Division in Baghdad, Iraq. On July 4, 2004, the regiment received deployment orders to the regimental headquarters in both 1st and 2nd Squadron, also in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. 2nd Squadron deployed in December 2004 and conducted full-spectrum operations in Bagril Province, while attached to 155th Mississippi National Guard. First Squadron deployed 1 month later to Baghdad, Iraq, where in the course of the year they were attached to 4 different brigade combat teams, conducting full spectrum operations in the city. Regimental headquarters deployed to Mosul, Iraq that same month and assumed duty as the division headquarters for Multinational Force Northwest. The Regimental Support Squadron was faced with a dual mission for providing the regimental rear command post and continuing to support the rotational training mission. 1221 Cavalry Nevada Army National Guard was activated and deployed to Fort Irwin in fall of 2004 and formed the core of the NTC's premier opposing force. On 2 separate continents, the regiment demonstrated cavalry panache and flexibility, performing its wartime mission within tradition of unmatched excellence that no other separate brigade has been called on to perform. The regiment returned to Fort Irwin in January 2006, and within 90 days assumed the role providing the National Training Center with a premier opposing force that was combat tested. The regiment continues to serve in rotational support while simultaneously reorganizes a deployable heavy brigade combat team. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the national anthem and remain standing for the invocation given by the 11th Armored Cavalry Chaplain, Chaplain Barton T. Herndon.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, today we say goodbye to an outstanding regimental command team consisting of Colonel Lanier Ward, Lieutenant Colonel Fred Snyder, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Bramlett, Lieutenant Colonel Scott McFarland, and Command Sergeant Major Gary Shine. This command team have given their all over the course of the last 2 years toward replicating a crushing enemy force in order to train our nation's fighting forces to the level of combat trained and ready. They've served with distinction, they've served with honor. We ask that you bless them in wonderful ways and their families as they leave Fort Irwin to serve you and our nation in many different ways. May their careers and futures be filled with joy and true contentment. Today we welcome a new regimental command team consisting of Colonel COL Jacobi, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Wilcox, Lieutenant Colonel Shane Celeen, Lieutenant Colonel James Stevens, and Command Sergeant Major Kenneth Reynolds. They come with a passion to train to defend our great nation as well. Bless their efforts with excellence and watch over and protect their families. May their time of service on Fort Irwin be rewarding and meaningful. I pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please direct your attention to the cavalry trooper making his way to the commanders in front of the troop formation. He is bearing the command saber, which will be delivered to the outgoing commander for a ceremony that transfers the command saber to the incoming commander. The ceremony begins as the command sergeant major takes the colors from the color bearer and then passes them to the outgoing commander. The outgoing commander returns the colors to the regimental commander, thus relinquishing command of the squadron. The regimental commander passes the colors to the incoming commander, charging him with the responsibility of the squadron. The commander passes the colors back to the command sergeant major, symbolizing the unit is never without leadership. The changing of responsibility from the outgoing command sergeant major to the new begins when the colors from the color bearer are passed to the outgoing command sergeant major. The outgoing command sergeant major returns the colors to the squadron commander, an act symbolic of his relinquishing responsibility to the squadron. The squadron commander passes the colors to the incoming command sergeant major, charging him with the responsibility of the squadron. By authority of paragraph 2-8 Bravo, Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of 1st Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Irwin, California. Signed, Paul J. Wilcox, Lieutenant Colonel, Armor, Commanding. By authority of paragraph 2-8 Bravo, Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of 2nd Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Irwin, California. Signed, Shane D. Celeen, Lieutenant Colonel, Armor, Commanding. By authority of paragraph 2-8 Bravo, Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of the Regimental Support Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Irwin, California. Signed, James M. Stevens, Lieutenant Colonel, Logistics, Commanding. At this time, Major General Martin, Colonel Ward, Colonel Jacobi, and Command Sergeant Major Ashby will conduct the passing of the flag. By authority of paragraph 2-8 Bravo, Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Irwin, California. Signed, Kevin L. Jacobi, Colonel, Armor, Commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding General of the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, Major General Theodore D. Martin.
Okay, it's a hot one out there, but thank you all for coming today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and especially troopers of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment and their steadfast and loyal families. Thank you for joining us today as we change command of the Black Horse Regiment. What a magnificent day for the regiment. The troopers, the horses, colors snapping in the breeze. Of course, when I wrote this, I anticipated a breeze. And of course, the festive atmosphere you get whenever a bunch of cavalry troopers get together to do anything. I must admit, this is both a sad day and an uplifting one for me and the fort. Today, we bid farewell to some awesome command teams and welcome the next generation of inspired leaders who will command the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment and her squadrons. Since 1901, when the Black Horse Regiment was formed until this very day, this regiment has been blessed with caring, competent, and aggressive commanders. Of course, I can't speak for the last century's worth of history, but in the past 18 months, the real power behind the regiment have been the spouses and family members who have stood by their troopers so they may be able to accomplish the missions we give them. Nowhere was this more evident than with the wonderful command teams at the squadron level. Lieutenant Colonel Fred Snyder and his lovely wife Jen, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Bramlett and his lovely wife Amy, Lieutenant Colonel Scott McFarland and his lovely wife Jen, and Command Sergeant Major Gary Shine and his lovely wife Renita. Together, these great Americans made life in the Mojave Desert not only bearable, but an awesome and life-altering experience. And all that didn't happen by chance. It was driven by actions from the top. Having been in this army of ours for 31 years, I know that it takes strong and inspired leadership to set the conditions so a unit not only accomplishes its missions, but also truly takes care of its families. The Black Horse Command Team did just that. Heather and Lanier Ward wrapped their arms around this regiment as command teams have done for over a century, and they made Fort Irwin, California way more than a posting. They made it a home away from home for the brave men and women of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. I've had the honor and privilege to observe these gentlemen and their wives at close quarters during good times and bad times. And I'll take credit for the bad times, and I'm including a flood, 3 power outages, high winds, hot weather, and the occasional coyote. They all combine to make this a memorable command tour for everyone. I salute you for your dedicated, loyal service to Fort Irwin and the United States Army. Thanks for a job well done. You will be missed. And now, as we've been doing since 1901, the Army has selected a new set of leaders to command the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. And chosen well we have. Those great soldiers and their families have extensive and relevant experience that will ensure their success in the Mojave Desert. At the squadron level, we welcome Lieutenant Colonel Paul Wilcox and his lovely wife Anya, Lieutenant Colonel Shane Celeen and his lovely wife Melissa, Lieutenant Colonel James Stevens and his lovely wife Faith, and Command Sergeant Major Kenneth Reynolds and his lovely wife Eliza. And now to lead the Black Horse Regiment. The Army has really done right by its selection of Colonel Kevin Jacobi and his lovely wife Kathy. Kevin and Kathy come to Fort Irwin with a wealth of experience and a reputation as caring and inspired leaders. Stephanie and I wish you all the best as you take the reins of this magnificent regiment and take them to new heights of excellence. May God bless our Army, our soldiers in harm's way, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 65th Colonel of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Colonel John L. Ward.
Major General Stephanie Martin, my first battle buddy, and now NTC's Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Steve Travers, his beautiful wife Kathy, fellow commanders, Command Sergeant Major's friends, families, and veterans of the Black Horse, many who traveled from so far away, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today on this special occasion. Now first, can I ask you for a standing round of applause for outstanding squadron commanders, Command Sergeant Major Shine, and their families who have served this regiment so nobly the last 2 years. Please join me in a round of applause. Now, when I first came on board, I asked of them one thing: to act as members of a team. I couldn't have been prouder of them and the example they set for our troopers as each day they work hand in hand to accomplish the incredible workload placed upon the regiment. You are all members of the Ward family forever, like it or not. Now next to their families in attendance, and in many cases in the throes of the move to the next duty station, Jen Liebert and Snyder, Amy Esterline, Jen McFarland, and Renita Shine, thank you for quite simply for supporting our troopers, supporting our community, and for allowing each of us to do what we love so much. To our kids, Allie, Taylor, Elena, Gracie, Aaron, thank you so much for all of your sacrifices experienced at such an early age. To Jeff Bramlett's parents, thank you for traveling so far to be here today with your son on this special day at this. Now, throughout the last 2 years, I've spoken constantly of the pride and discipline within our formation. Now, I couldn't be prouder of these incredible troopers standing before you today. Please give them another fine round of applause for their time and effort in the field. So what can I say? I'd love to lay out all the incredible things this regiment has done in support of this nation the past 2 years, and also all the thanks that I owe to those outside of our organization for all that they have done in support of this regiment. But I won't. What I will tell you is this: I, along with the rest of those departing today, love this regiment and this community. We love our troopers. We love our families, and we love our veterans who have served before us. We love this regiment for its traditions, its rich history, but even more so for the people, past and present, associated with it. Now, I've heard some say that it's all about the stories, and to some degree I agree with that. But I'd like to go one additional step, because it is about the people. The people who create those incredible and wonderful stories. Bazemore, Jewel, Wachucha are just a few of the names that are with me forever. To those I will always add Snyder, Bramlett, McFarland, and Shine. Today we also add Jacobi, Wilcox, Celeen, Stevens, and Reynolds. Not as members of a new team, but rather new members serving on a team that has been present since 1901. Believe me, our veterans will never let you forget that. Now, Kevin, you and Kathy are an incredible couple with an outstanding reputation, along with all of these new leaders who have accompanied you. I have no doubt that you will pick up the ruck and continue to march while taking this regiment to even higher levels of performance in the years to come. We wish you all our best. Now to my ladies, Black Horse 6 Hotel and Black Horse 6 Alpha Whiskey. Dadgummit, you win again. Right at that, boy. But Heather and Allie, thank you so much for loving me, supporting me in this profession that is me to my core, and for falling in love with this regiment just as I have. I love you both and look forward to our new adventures. And lastly, to my soldiers, you are the reason that I get up each morning. 26 years ago, I entered this Army thinking I would do my obligation and head on to other things. I thought wrong, because I had yet to find myself surrounded by you. You who sacrificed so much as you strive to be part of something larger than yourselves, a source of good, a protector of our freedoms, a defender of our nation, and all that it stands for. All it took was my first formation standing on my platoon of those young heroes, and I was hooked, just like I am today. Hooked by the honor of standing beside you, with you. I thank all of you for what you do, and I will take a part of each of you with me forever. I, along with those others departing today, are honored to say that with you, we rode with the Black Horse, the best damn regiment that you will ever see. Guidons, guidons, this is Black Horse 6. X-ray, the net is yours. This is Black Horse 6. Out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Commander and 66th Colonel of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Colonel Kevin L. Jacobi.
Good morning. General and Mrs. Barton, Command Sergeant Major and Mrs. Travers, fellow commanders, sergeant majors, friends, families, distinguished members of the regiment, and soldiers. Thank you for joining us today. To the Ward family, Lanier, thank you to you and Heather for the warm welcome that you showed us and all of the command teams, and then the great assistance that has been passed off to Kathy and all of us as we all make the transition to Fort Irwin. You, sir, are a true patriot to this nation and an extraordinary colonel of this regiment, and I only hope to continue the high standards that you have set. It may seem a little odd, but would you please join me in giving this colonel, the 65th colonel of the regiment, a round of applause. To the soldiers and families and the friends of the Black Horse, Kathy and I are deeply humbled to join the ranks of the most professional, disciplined, and formidable outfits on the earth. To you, I pledge my service and devotion to duty every day. To my fellow commanders here at Fort Irwin, Kathy and I are honored to be among you, and we look forward to new and long-lasting relationships. All policies and procedures remain in effect. Black Horse 6 signing on the deck.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to direct your attention to the left of the field for the last cavalry charge. On 5 May 1916, the 11th Cavalry had the honor of making the last mounted charge in U.S. cavalry history. The count of the last cavalry charge is noted as follows. The column advanced onto Ojo Azules, only to find out by guards. The bugler sounded, and with guidons flying on high, the charge began. The troopers entered the village with pistols firing, bugles sounding out orders, commands being screamed, and the thunder of hoofs. This all struck fear into the hearts of the enemies. As the horse detachment charges across the field in honor of Colonel John L. Ward, 65th Colonel of the regiment, we bid goodbye and wish him and his family Godspeed. Ladies and gentlemen, the last cavalry charge! Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the 11th Armored Cavalry's regimental song, Allons, and remain standing for the playing of the Army song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal portion of the ceremony. Colonel Jacobi, Squadron Commanders, Command Sergeant Major Shine, and their families would like to invite you to a reception at the Black Horse Museum immediately following the ceremony. The former commanders and Command Sergeant Major will be available immediately following the ceremony in front of the canopies for everyone to say goodbye to them. The officers, non-commissioned officers, and troopers of the Black Horse Regiment thank you for attending today's ceremony and wish you all a safe journey home.